Welcome back to the Live Free Now show with your guest host, Ryan Minetti. This is going to be our first episode of me guest hosting on the Live Free Now show. So today I thought it'd be a really special treat to bring on one of the people that recently did our 30-day health challenge. She had an amazing amount of success. She really adhered to the program, and she made a lot of life-changing changes throughout the month of January. And now she's set to continue them throughout the rest of the year and, hopefully for the rest of her life. And I'll do no further introduction. Thanks for joining us, Erin.
Yeah, glad to be here. Glad to be here. It's been an awesome journey. I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Erin, tell everybody a little bit about your background, maybe some of your health struggles. I understand that you were a smoker for a long period of time, tried to quit here and there, but give us a little bit more of your health background.
Yeah. So I am coming up on 59 years old. So in March, I'll be 59. And for the majority of my life, I have either had a desk job, which I'm a chief financial officer, which is what I've done for most of my career. And when I wasn't doing that, or sometimes I was doing both, I was a professional horse trainer. So I was either abusing my body, getting injured, in a sport that, particularly when you're training horses, can sometimes be dangerous, and or a very sedentary life. So kind of those both extremes. I started smoking at 14 and really enjoyed it for many years. And it wasn't until 1998, kind of when the tobacco companies got outed for what they did, altering, the chemical makeup of nicotine to make it more easily absorbed, which made it essentially more addictive. It was when I learned that I really got kind of pissed off, and that sort of got me down this road of trying to quit, and have struggled with it since 1998. At times I've quit for a year, and sometimes just for a few days. As of right now, it is 45 days for me, smoke free. So woohoo,
Let's
yes.
go.
Really happy about that. I've had a couple of days that I struggled with it, but for the most part, and I am doing, full disclosure, nicotine lozenges, which I will need to get myself off of at some point. I've been so determined to not smoke that I've been a little nervous about the prospect of getting off of the lozenges, right? But that has to happen at some point. But for the most of my life, if you don't count the smoking, I've been a fairly healthy person. I was an avid hiker. I was a professional horse trainer. When I wasn't training horses, I was obsessed with everything horse, and so riding. I've spent 6 years of my life as a trail guide. Early in my life, I was actually a bodybuilder, not a professional bodybuilder, but I
Wow.
was a bodybuilder, because growing up, I was, 98 pounds soaking wet. I hit my height of 5'7" at 12 years old, and was so skinny that I had like no shape, and I wanted to put on pounds. And that led me to bodybuilding back in, I think I started when I was about 16, and I was pretty obsessed with it. I would say it was kind of an healthy thing to do. I
Did you
was six
follow
days a week.
any of like the mainstream bodybuilders like Arnold and Franco Columbu and all of those guys?
Rachel McClish was
Okay.
my idol. Of course, she was a female bodybuilder, and
Uh-huh.
she was my ideal, because if she was just standing there, she didn't look like a bodybuilder, right? And then if she flexed, whoa, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing, right? But she didn't look, because to me, I mean, I feel like as a woman, I should look feminine, so to be all ripped and whatever was not what I was going for. So she could it was amazing. Like I said, when she would pose, the amount of definition that she had was incredible. But yeah, it was back in like the Arnold days, when everyone knew him from Pump and Iron and blah blah blah. It was kind of in the early days of I'm aging myself here, but I've already told you I'm going to be 59. Back in the aerobics days, everybody was doing aerobics and blah blah blah. But bodybuilding was my thing. I worked out in a bodybuilding gym. I was the only female that was at that gym ever. And it was mostly weightlifters. And there's very much a difference between a weightlifter and a bodybuilder.
Right.
The power lifters, they have these big guts. And I used to have these arguments with them all the time about like, dude, like that is so bad for your back. And they're like, no, 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 it helps us get that lift or whatever.
Right.
So had a lot of fun, hanging out with all the power lifters and stuff while I was doing my best to bulk up. But I never really was successful in bulking up. I would say I spent the majority of my life until probably 35, from 128 maybe to 135. And I think that was a good place to be then. And we all know our bodies change as we get older and hormones and all that stuff. And so I think now probably 145 would be a healthy weight for me. And I hit 190, and that was kind of scary. My knees were aching, so you start having all the aches and pains, which, when you've got a lot of miles on this body, right?
Mm.
A lot of hard miles, right? But I shouldn't have been feeling like I was 80 years old, right? And I was
Right.
kind of feeling that way. So that was my main motivation to get something going. I kind of looked at 75 hard, Andy Frisella, and he was just a little too. I don't know. I don't know. It just didn't really suit me. But I was like, I really want to find something where I can engage with other folks that are kind of on this same journey, And then along comes the health summit. I was like, this could not be more timely, right? And then
Right.
out of that, the 30-day challenge, I was like, this is exactly what I need to do. And a lot of inspiration came out of the health summit. There was so much amazing information that came out of that. Detox baths are now one of my obsessions.
Wow.
It is a twice a week like ritual now in my life. That was amazing. Earthing, can I tell you? I mean, earthing. Uh, I'm going broke on earthing things. Okay. I have I have the bed cover. I have both workspaces here at the office and at home. I have the mat that's like across my desk and kind of acts as a big giant mouse pad. I've got the little stick-on things, where you can focus on certain areas. I've got like so much earthing stuff now because when it's -5 with the wind chill, you're not going standing outside on the
Right.
grass in your bare feet.
No.
So I was really happy to see that all of these things existed that you could get. And I've become an evangelist for earthing. I don't know if you know Nicole Sauce,
Yeah, of
live
course.
free in Tennessee. Well, I'm heading down to Nicole's for her April workshop, and I'm bringing all my earthing stuff, and I'm hoping that I can convince some people to try it, while we're sitting watching lectures and things like that, because it has been life-changing for me. Earthing has been a life changer. And so yeah, that's I know I went on there for a long time, but kind of
Hey,
got it
no
all
worries
out.
at all. No worries at all. It's all very, very beneficial. One little wrinkle that I'll throw in there. I actually use nicotine myself. I don't smoke or anything like that, but I use like these little nicotine lozenges, like you said. And I do think that there's a lot of research coming out that obviously smoking is very harmful for you. And for me, the main reason is the tobacco leaves that they procure are mass produced in these farmlands that are totally sprayed with a bunch of herbicides and pesticides and all of
Yeah.
this kind of stuff. So I feel like that's why smoking is so harmful for us, because we're inhaling herbicides and pesticides. So I think that's what's so bad. But the nicotine aspect, there's a lot of research coming out showing that it's neural protective and that it's really good for cognitive and brain function, and it's actually looked at as a nootropic. So here and there, I'll put in a nicotine lozenge when I'm buckling down
Right.
on a project or something like that. But I don't think that it's inherently bad for you as long as you're sourcing it good. There's this company that I utilize. They're called Knick Knack Naturals, and it's these
Okay.
little like nicotine mints, and they have like really good uh, ingredients. It's not a poisonous product at all, so I'll use something
All
like
right.
that. Maybe that's
Yeah,
something for you
I'll
to
have to
check
look
into.
into that because I've been doing, this the typical like CVS brand, Nicorette, that kind of thing,
Right.
which I'm sure is full of all kinds of chemicals and such. And but it's gotten me away from smoking. And the smoking, the thing about smoking is that it drains your energy too.
Right.
So I never would have gotten through that 30-day challenge had I tried to smoke my way through it, right? It just would not have happened at all.
Right,
So,
right. So let's talk about a little bit about the 30-day challenge. And you can be completely honest with what you liked, what you didn't like. Yeah, just let everybody know how the 30-day challenge went for you, maybe some of your results afterward.
yeah, yeah. So, what I was disappointed about was that there was really not a lot of engagement, right?
Mm,
In our group, right? I was really hoping that we were all going to be cheering each other on, and that it was going to be a really engaged kind of a thing happening over those 30 days. So I was kind of disappointed that we didn't have a lot of participation on that part, but
And if I could just jump in there real quick, I think that's an excellent point. And I had invited, we had 25 or so people that were registered for the challenge, and nobody was really joining the group. But we had like 13,500 people sign up for the health summit. And so to only have 25 people engage in the challenge was kind of a head scratcher, especially with all of the great feedback that we got from the health summit. Erin, why do you think so few people maybe have signed up for the challenge? We kind of thought like, oh, maybe people just like, it's one, it was $300, so there was a higher price point. But it was kind of
right.
like $10 a day for me guiding you through workouts and all of this kind of stuff, plus all of the resources that you got on the back end. But we kind of felt like, if you pay $300 for this challenge, then you might be committed to actually doing it, and people might have had a
Correct.
lot of reservations about actually taking the next step in their health journey. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little hesitant with the price point, right?
Mm, okay.
One now I was a VIP at the Health Summit, so I had, the $99 that I paid for the VIP went toward the 30-day health challenge, so it was really only $200 for me. But I did kind of hesitate, one, because you know how these things can be, right? It's just because you join a challenge doesn't mean you're always going to finish the challenge, right?
Right.
And I actually spoke to Rebecca on the phone, and she's like, "Oh no, you got to sign up." And I said, "But you don't get it. Like if I sign up, I can't sign up if I don't think I'm going to do it. If I
Um,
can't commit to it, then I'm not going to sign up because then I'm throwing my money away, right? So
right.
at that price point, it's something that possibly I wouldn't follow through with. What made me hesitate, I had to really prepare myself mentally, prepare myself, making sure that my kitchen was set up for eating the way I wanted to get started eating again. Like I needed to do some prep to make sure I could power through the challenge.
Mm,
So the price point would made me hesitate a little bit, but ultimately, I felt it was worth it. Just like you said, $10 a day. I think it would have been in the end, I would have felt like it was much more worth it if we had 10, 15 people every day, talking back and forth and
right.
congratulating each other and cheering each other on. That was really what I was hoping for. I mean, it was enough, engaging with you. There were a couple of people that were engaging a bit, so that was enough to keep me going and keep me feeling accountable, but ultimately what got me to the end of it was that I was really just motivated. It was time to make a change, I tend to really suffer with seasonal affective disorder, and I was determined to get through this winter without getting mired in a depression. And
Mm.
and all of those things, I mean, diet and exercise and the earthing and getting the sun and being outside, like all those things are the things that are going to help with that. So I was very motivated, that's what got me there. And going on, logging in every day, let me see who's checked in, hoping maybe today there'll be more people signing up, so yeah, that's interesting to me that and out of over 13,000 people to have. So how many did you have? A lot of VIP signups
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the summit?
like 200 VIP signups. So yeah, I mean the discount was available to all of them to be able to participate. But I think that your sentiment there is almost kind of exactly what we thought is the commitment thing. I don't want to throw my money away if I'm not going to commit to the whole thing. And yeah, it is one of those things. Truly committing to your health, for a week is, enough of a hardship because
Right.
it's always the first couple of days for me, at least. In the past, when I would try to work on my health, it would be the first couple of days because you go from eating whatever you want to now eating, a calorie restricted diet or, eating more healthful foods that aren't as palatable as, the things that aren't as healthful, right?
Brownies.
Right, right. So for
Right,
me, I mean, it's I love a cheeseburger with the bun and the fries and the milkshake. I mean, like I'm all about that, and also
right.
pizza, a big pizza guy. So you go the first couple of days without that, and you're just really wanting to get back off the wagon.
Right, right,
But yeah, I think it's just one of those things. People weren't ready to commit, but I was really happy with your progress and other people's progress throughout the challenge. My girlfriend Elizabeth, her eczema got severely better throughout the challenge.
right.
Adhering to a diet, and that cleared up really, really well. So yeah, talk a little bit more about the benefits and stuff that you got throughout the challenge.
Yeah, so one is just really being motivated to get out there and exercise every day, right? Getting my time in, whether it was on the treadmill, out walking on my property, doing the strength training, I mean, all of that, just every day I felt stronger, right? My diet, uh I am a carb addict, and I always got away with it when I was younger, right? Giving up sugar almost entirely. Now I've gone like strict paleo. I've tried keto, paleo, sort of a modified paleo carnivore kind of diet always works for me anyway. But so right away, as soon as I changed my diet, all of a sudden, no more migraines, because I'd say most of my, and I haven't had major health issues in my life. I've been really lucky. But all of those, uh, I'd say everything that I've had that has bugged me was somehow related to diet, and definitely
Mm.
staying away from grains and gluten and, just something, a carnivore paleo type diet has always been what's worked best for me. So by 3 days in, I felt like a different person already, so just all of it. I mean, I lost over the course of the challenge, I lost 8 pounds. I've lost another 5 since then. And I was expecting it to slow down. And, I think, less is better, slower is better, right? And I'm hoping, maybe it's going to take me 9 months to get to my goal of losing 45 pounds, right? But I got, 1/9 of the way there during the
Let's go.
challenge. And so that was really motivating, to keep me going. That motivated me to keep it up, after the challenge was over. so yeah, I mean, I wish more people would have done it. I don't know, no idea whether all those people that signed up and didn't really actively engage, did they actually do the challenge and finish it? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what we were talking about, it might have been, hopefully not, but it might have been one of those situations where they paid for it and they never used it. Now, good thing we offer lifetime access, so they could pick up that challenge whenever they'd like to. I mean,
Right.
they have access to it since they paid for it. So, yeah, hopefully they did it, but if not, then they always have access so they can go back and do it. But what are some of the principles that you learned that you're still carrying over until today?
Definitely the getting outside every day, stretching before bedtime,
Mm.
right? The earthing, I mean, I wasn't doing it outside. I only did that once. I learned that wasn't going to work for me. But I did do it once. And just like perseverance, right? And remembering, that I could do it, right? Because I've really gotten far too sedentary, just for me, realizing that I can get out and move, right? And then that the more you do it, the better you feel, the easier it gets, right? And that I don't want to backslide. I don't want to be back where like my first, 3 steps in the morning when I get out of bed are like I'm 100 years old. And then I can sort of straighten up and, then, my knees start to work and, I want to be back there again. So it's I'm motivated to stick with it.
Awesome, awesome. And yeah, I was the same way. I hate running, but I was on a softball team with all of my buddies, and I ran to go, like, I sprinted to go catch a fly ball. And after I caught it, I was totally winded. I'm just like, man, I really need to work on my cardiovascular fitness. So I started doing these trail runs out on John and Becca's property. And I started out with like 10 minutes. And by the end of the 10 minutes, I was absolutely gassed. But I increased it by, maybe 5 minutes each week, to where eventually I was doing 45 minutes, which ended up being close to like 4 miles. And,
Right.
um, and I was, even after I would do 45 minutes of continuous trail running, I'd be like, oh, I could keep going if I want to. So I'd reached a point of cardiovascular fitness where I was like, okay, I'm happy with this where I'm at.
Right.
Now I've kind of fallen off from the trail running, so I got to pick it back up. But yeah, you really do sometimes got to start small, and that's, with that challenge. It was, hey, just go on a 5 minute walk after each meal,
Right.
and
Right.
you can really just
And
start
oh,
small and
I
build
have
up.
to tell you this. I actually somehow like misunderstood that piece, and I was doing 15 minutes, like immediately from day one in the challenge. I was doing a 15-minute walk after each meal, and it wasn't until maybe 5 days in that I realized I had it wrong, and I just kept doing the 15 minutes. So
Well, perfect.
I was like, already got it done. So and the most part, I eat twice a day. So that was like twice a day. And then I was doing 30 minutes on the treadmill. Now, when I
Wow.
started talking about like progression, when I started that 30 minutes on and I've got a pretty cool treadmill that, I can keep track of my progress and everything. And
Hmm.
when I started, I could barely get through 30 minutes on like, two, maybe bump it up to 2.5 speed, no incline, whatever. And by the time I was done, by the end of the 30 days, I was doing at least a portion of that 30 minutes was with a 5 incline and a
Mm,
5 speed. And then if I bumped it up to 5.5, I would have to actually jog a little bit, which I've had 2 knee surgeries, so I try and stick more to like the low impact kind of stuff.
right, right.
But I would do like a 2 minute like jog, and then stop, and then walk again for a minute. And so yeah, I progressed pretty far in what I could get accomplished on the treadmill in 30 minutes. So that was pretty awesome.
Well, that's pretty intense. I mean, 5 miles an hour walking. I mean, you have to be really, really moving it. I think,
Oh, yes.
yeah, I think I'm jogging at 5 miles an hour on the treadmill.
Yeah, for me, as soon as I go above five, like if I hit 5.1, I've got to start jogging, Yeah. And
Okay.
mostly I would go to 5.5, but I could do a pretty good walk at five. Now it's not easy, but I can definitely. Definitely.
Gotcha.
Now, one thing I could say too is what I think might have worked better, because one thing I found like a little bit annoying was that you had to, because you wanted to go check in with people, right? So logging into the group, but then we were getting our stuff from another place, right? Either from
Right.
your email or from logging into the Live Free Academy website. So I think if it was all in one place, maybe we would have had more engagement,
Okay.
if you had to come and check in order to get the exercises for the day, right? And that it was like kind of one-stop shopping instead of sort of three different places that you were checking,
Mm.
to figure out what's going on. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's really good feedback. I actually heard that from one other person as well. So, if we pick up another 30-day challenge, then I'll definitely do that. Maybe just post all of it in the Freedom Cell group. Like you said, that'll kind of force everyone to check in and see what's going on in the group. But
Right.
yeah, definitely really good feedback. And you know what? I'd like for you to get on your soapbox and tell us about all of the benefits that you've got from earthing.
Wow. Now earthing has been amazing. Now I've become an evangelist for earthing. I'm trying to get everyone that I know to try it. So, for me, here are the benefits. One is sleep. I get into bed. Now I have the earthing mattress cover, right? Uh, I get into bed and I have been a chronic insomniac, or at least trouble falling asleep, even if it's not, tossing and turning still at 3 o'clock in the morning, which I've had many of those nights. Um, uh, I get into bed and I am asleep within 5 minutes of getting into bed.
Wow.
Uh, that has been absolutely amazing. I have an injury to my index finger on my left hand. It was from a horseback riding accident. And for 15 years, this finger has hurt. I have never not been aware of it. Now you think, oh, what's the big deal? It's just a finger, right? But not being able to close my left hand, make a true fist with my left hand, and just having a constant ache there for 15 years, it is gone. And it actually freaked me out a little bit because now, being also a lifelong smoker, when you smoke, it messes with your circulation, right? So you tend to have cold hands, cold feet, right? Now from poor circulation, right? One of the first things I noticed in the first like 5 minutes of being connected to one of these earthing um, uh, items was my hands and feet warming up, right?
Mm.
Then what I noticed was the veins in my hands were larger. Like they were like in some cases like twice the size of what I would normally see.
Wow.
And it was kind of freaking me out a little bit. But then this one large vein in your hand went up my finger, that injured finger. The vein, you could see it. It looked like there was like a worm under my skin. It was kind of freaking me out. Okay. But it went halfway up this finger to this knuckle. And it was pumping blood there, I guess, because that finger needed to heal. And I can make a regular fist now. And now if I go, if I were to miss a day, like if I go 12 hours, I start to notice it again, but then I sleep on my earthing mat and then I wake up in the morning and it's gone, right? So I had has all these like weird things. Like I said, I haven't had any major health issues in my life, but I have this spot on my ear that was from like severe sun damage from all the time I spent outdoors in southeastern Virginia, training horses, wearing a ball cap, right? The tops of your ears are sticking out.
Mm,
And I had this thing on my ear that was like, I kind of always would think it's possibly like precancerous, right? It's gone. All right. I've had it for almost 20 years and it's gone. So there my lower back pain is gone. My plantar fasciitis is gone.
wow.
The only like chronic annoying health thing that has still persisted is there's like this weird twinge I get in my Achilles tendon when I'm doing any kind of walking on hills, and that is still there. All the rest of my aches and pains and weird like things are gone.
I see.
It's amazing, amazing, amazing.
And did your earthing journey kind of start with the health summit? Is that where you first kind of saw, like when I was saying, ground for 5 minutes each day?
Yes, and I don't know if you remember, but over the course of the health summit, like five of the people that were presenting on their own stuff mentioned it,
Yep.
right? And the more people mentioned it, the more like I just kept going, there's got to be something to this. And I am a skeptic in some ways, and but I'm also very much I've always embraced any kind of holistic alternative methods of being healthy and of living our lives, right? I'm a pretty spiritual person, although I'm not a religious person. So the idea that the earth has the power to heal us, I can totally embrace, right?
Mm,
But there was a little bit of, well, can an actual thing that you plug in, right?
right.
That you plug into an outlet in your wall, can that actually produce something that's beneficial? And whoa, totally, absolutely. I mean, I'm looking forward to spring and getting my bare feet on the grass, believe me, but these earthing products, they work. They totally work. So yeah, so many people mentioned it. I'm like, I've got to give this a try. And I don't know if you've read uh his book, Chad. I can't remember his name now. But the guy who founded the Earthing Institute, his book, unbelievable. Like the
Wow.
testimonials that are in there, the case studies, like the medical studies and scientific studies that have been done on this and how it works and what have you. uh, oh my god, yeah, it is profound. I am so blown away by earthing.
So people got to be wondering, what kind of brand do you use? I imagine it's probably a singular brand, or maybe you source your products all over.
Earthing products are direct from the Earthing Institute. So right from the guy who started this all,
Mm,
who started as far as creating products that you could use, right? Because obviously earthing has been around before anybody knew it was earthing and called it earthing, right? There's one story that they tell in the book, this guy who was in the construction world, and back when he was younger, this group of they were immigrants from some kind of like country like Sweden or something like that. It was this kind of construction gang that all had immigrated from this particular country. And they told him, if you want to have longevity in the construction world, you need to get your bare feet on the ground every day.
wow.
That was what they did to heal from all the heavy lifting and all this stuff. And it was years later when he got introduced to earthing that he remembered that conversation,
Oh,
so people have known, indigenous cultures, have known that being in contact with the earth is important. Oh, another amazing thing is my dog, my Millie, every opportunity she is on an earthing mat, every opportunity.
wow.
She and so again, like, if you had any level of skepticism, for me that wiped any lingering, like, is this really something happening here, is that my dog knew something was happening. So something is happening there. It's
Right.
amazing.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of that kind of stuff. Like sunlight will come in through a window pane and it'll make like a light spot on the ground, and the animals will lay in that light spot as
Right.
it moves throughout the day. So that
Yes.
also tells you something. And then there's also like structured water. If you have like stagnant water and then you also have like structured water, and you put both
Right.
bowls in front of an animal like cat, dog, whatever, they'll always choose the structured water over the stagnant water that's been sitting out a long time.
Wow. Wow. Now, the structured water was one of the things that I really want to look more into. That was something that really fascinated me too, that I really want to delve more into and learn more about. That's one that's on my list of go back and re-listen to those segments of the Health Summit. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Gerald Pollack, he's amazing. He's been dedicating his life to this research, and it really isn't that complicated. I mean, just spring water is kind of what he recommends, just because it spends the most time in the sunlight. So sunlight really structures your water. If you just have like a bottle of water and put it in the sunlight, now obviously you want to do it in glass because there might be
right.
plastic leaching into your water if
Right, right, exactly.
you
Right.
so yeah, that's just one really simple, easy way. But then there's also like these structuring devices, and there's even whole home systems where it structures the water and vortexes the water, but that's obviously super, super pricey. But yeah,
Right.
there's easy ways to do structured water, and at least you know
I didn't
having that
remember
kind of
the
structured water.
sunlight. I didn't remember anyone saying that you can just put it in the sun, and so that's like so simple and easy. I mean, I have a south facing window in my kitchen, and I'm gonna fill up when I get home tonight. I'm gonna fill up a half-gallon mason jar with water from my reverse osmosis system and stick it up there.
There you go.
That
Perfect.
that is, I did not realize you could do it that simply. Is there like an amount of time it has to stay there, or is it
You
just
know what? I'm not exactly sure about an amount of time, but I mean 15, 30 minutes. I mean, that's got to be adequate, right? So he
right,
actually did some lab studies, and he has like this infrared camera, and you could see the water, the structured water actually grows while it's the sunlight's hitting it, over some amount of time. I can't remember the amount of
right,
time,
right.
but he did it. He talked about it in his presentation that he gave. So yeah, definitely go back and take a look over at that. But Erin, what's next in your health journey? I know you said you have an overall goal of losing 45 pounds total. Sounds like you're about 13 in. What else do you got as a goal for yourself?
Well, obviously, to stick with the non-smoking journey, right?
Yep.
I'm determined to just remain a non-smoker for the rest of the days that I'm on this earth. Not to mention how much of that money actually ends up in the government coffers. It doesn't sit right with me either. But um, uh, I just want to keep getting stronger. I'm back riding again. That's another thing. I had not ridden in almost 6 years. And
Wow.
it's during the course of the health challenge is actually it was about 5 days into the health challenge that I actually was back on a horse again. And so that's a big one for me, to get back to riding probably 3 days a week, I think would be ideal. Same thing. I have one remaining horse. At one point I had six. I have one remaining. My girl Star, she's going to be 25 years old this year. I've had her since she's 4 months old. And so we're going to see if she can get back after a 6 year, thought she was retired layoff, and if she can come back, then she and I will be back, just fun stuff. I won't ever go back to the competition, all that stuff. It's like really
Right.
not my scene anymore. But yeah, those are the main things. And to just keep being outside, getting back to hiking again. Like, I've been simulating hiking on my property. I've got 11 acres, and it is very varied terrain. So it's a lot of up and down hills and blah blah blah. So it takes me a lot of it's wooded. I can walk about 4.5 acres of the 11 acres, and that walk takes 15 minutes. What do you know? It's
Wow.
like amazing that it fit right into the walk after meals.
Yeah.
So I want to keep that up so that I can actually get out and hike again, which I haven't done. I've just been walking. It's more like hiking when I'm out on my own land, but I really want to get back to where I can do, 2-3 hour hike. So that would be really awesome.
Awesome. And one question that I personally have, me and my buddy Nomad Brad, we were kind of strategizing ways of how to have like off-grid transportation. So what he kind of came up with is like, oh, we get a golf cart, we take out the battery and we replace it with a lithium ion battery, and we have solar panels on the top of it and it feeds the battery, and that will be like our off-grid transportation. And then I was
Right.
thinking, I'm just like, well, what about a horse?
Right.
Like that would be a much easier option. A lithium ion battery, solar panels on the top of the golf cart.
Right.
A horse, you just got to kind of make sure it has enough grass to eat, maybe supplement some hay from time to time. But I've been kind of exploring this idea of acquiring a horse. What would you recommend if I were to start looking for a horse? What are some of the things I should look for in acquiring a horse? Because, you
Yeah.
can see that people have horses for sale on Craigslist, but I'm not
Right.
sure that those are the kind of horses that you should be buying for, personal use, riding, all that kind of stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. If you are a novice rider, you want to be really careful in buying them, because there are so many horse traders out there. All those old sayings, about crooked horse trainers and traders. They're there for a reason, because there's a lot of people that know it's easy to take advantage of someone that doesn't know. You can
Oh,
drug a horse, and then the person gets it home, and it's actually a psychopath. Wants to kill people.
wow.
There's a lot of disreputable people out there. But if you're really serious about it, and you're in Texas, right? So you can definitely find yourself a place where people teach people how to ride, right? Uh, a riding instructor that has been in business and has at least some level of reputation where you are, is going to be a great resource, because they're
Mhm.
going to want you as a client, so they're probably not going to try and rip you off. I wouldn't tell them right off the bat that you're looking to buy, more that you want to get some experience riding. uh uh Quarter horses are great, like versatile horses. There's so many different breeds out there. But a quarter horse is one that's going to be a good trail horse. It's going to be a good farm horse. They're going to be good for like moving cattle, moving livestock, that kind of stuff. And then if you want to do something a bit more fun too, I mean, quarter horse is super, super, it can hit almost 40 miles an hour in a sprint.
Wow.
Yeah, they don't have the staying power of a thoroughbred, but on the short run, in like the quarter-mile stretch, they're almost unbeatable, tough as
And how are
nails.
you saying that? Is it quarter horse or core horse?
Quarter.
Quarter.
Quarter, like
Okay.
like 1/4. But it's not
Gotcha.
1/4 of a horse. It is
Okay.
all horse. But quarter horses are the typical breed that you're gonna see in Western riding anyway, so there's a lot of quarter horses in Texas. So that's what I would recommend. And then, you want something, and this is again where you got to find somebody that you can trust. That you don't want to buy a 25-year-old horse. The average lifespan of a horse is about 25. You don't want to buy a 3-year-old horse if you're a novice, because when the horse doesn't have a lot of experience, they can be jumpy and, can be kind of unsafe. They're not the best thing for a beginner, right?
Mm.
When a horse hits about 10, they're really coming into their brains, so that's kind of a good age, for a horse. 10 to 12 is like, where they're really kind of settling down, not afraid of their own shadow anymore, like that kind of thing.
Okay.
And don't spend a lot of money, although it's hard to find. You used to be able to find $1,000 horse. $1,000 horse right now is probably going to cost you $10,000 in vet bills. So
Wow.
uh, you're probably better off spending 5,000, 7,500. And horses don't like to live alone. So if you're not going to board it, if you're bringing it back to the homestead, you kind of want to. If you really want your horse to be happy, there needs to be 2 of them. They're herd animals, so they don't do well alone. You can get by with a horse and maybe a little mini donkey or something, but 2 horses is always better, especially if you're gonna put them to use on the homestead. If you're gonna be walking fence lines, that kind of stuff. It's like your car, right? If the car breaks down, you want to have a backup, right?
Right.
So I would say 2 horses is like the way to go, because then it's fun too, right? Then you and your girlfriend can hop on the horses, go walk the property, whatever, instead of like just one person by themselves having to do stuff,
Right.
and it's less common, but you can teach a horse, and you might be able to even find someone that knows how to pack a horse, right? So the horse can like carry weight, right?
Oh,
There's an art to that, because you can actually injure the horse if you don't understand how to pack it and how to distribute the weight properly and that kind of thing. Horses can pull things. I mean, they are just as probably, I'd say, in a grid down situation, rather have a horse than the lithium powered golf cart. That would
yeah.
be my choice,
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that sounds awesome. That there's so many things that you can do with them, like you mentioned, herding cattle, maybe even plowing a field.
Exactly.
All these different uses. If you need to run into town, you can ride the horse. If you need to go a far distance and pack some weight on there, maybe some storable food, or whatever. Yeah, horses can do all of that. That's why I've really, like, I'm getting more in a prepper mindset, because I think we're on the precipice of some like
Right.
major world events happening in the next couple of years. So I'm like really
Right.
getting into like my prepper mind, and I'm just like, oh, horse or horses, I guess got to
Right.
have at least 2. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
because a
I think
horse,
those would
you
be.
don't need a road either, and
Yep.
that's one of the things that I think about, when I think about, I mean, I'm a huge fan of post-apocalyptic fiction, and so much of it takes place on the road, and I'm like, how about like in the woods? Because that's where I would be, right? I don't
Uh,
want to be trekking down the road, if Big Brother is coming looking for us, so they're going to be looking on the road, right? And they're likely not going to be able to follow you into the woods, right? If you end up bugging out, into the woods where there isn't a road, it's harder for people to follow you unless they're on horseback as well, you know
gotcha. Gotcha.
so I love the idea of bugging out on horseback.
Absolutely. And a ton of really, really valuable insights. And I'm so proud of you and all of your success with the health challenge. And, I'm really
Yeah.
glad that you brought up your horse expertise as well, because, I have been thinking about that. So it kind of fit very nicely. But thank you so much for joining me on my first venture with the Live Free Now show, Erin. It was a really good one.
Excellent. No, it was a pleasure. I was glad to be here.
All right, absolutely. I'll close this out. Stick around. I want to chat with you for a second, real quick. But yeah, guys, thanks so much for joining us today. It was really special being able to do my first episode, especially with Erin. And hopefully, we'll get on more and more guests as we go along here. But signing out from this side of the Live Free Now show is Erin and myself, Ryan Minetti. All right, guys, take care.